Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Story Church. Good to have you. If you're in the lobby, come on in. We're excited that you are here today. Welcome. So good to see faces this morning. People I haven't seen in a while. It's great. If you're watching online today, I want to say hello to you. Welcome. My name is Jeremy. I'm just thrilled that you're here and want to kind of help you navigate our morning a little bit. If you are on Facebook this morning, I know that Alicia is over there, and if you access our live stream through storychurch.org, then who is over there? It is Paula over there, who is hosting. Good morning, Paula. Good morning, Alicia. Go ahead and say hi to those folks, and if you have any questions this morning, they will be able to help you kind of navigate the morning. We're looking forward to today, a brand new series starting called Seasons. I'm excited for this. And one thing I want to make sure you know is that in a little bit, we're going to be doing some time of prayer together. And so if you're here in person this morning, I want to encourage you, you can let us know. We can pray for you. Let us know using the text message on the screen, 919-964-0649. Or if you're watching online, you can do the same, or you can drop a prayer request into the comments. And those folks there will let us know so that we can pray for you individually and live this morning on our stream. So that being said, I'm excited. We're going to worship together today as Kyle leads us in a couple of songs that we've been singing throughout pandemic, and I'm excited for these in person. They're going to be great. So Kyle, thanks a lot. Let's do it.
Well, good morning. It's good to see you all here this morning. It's always good to be here in person and hear you singing with me. So I invite you to stand up as we sing together. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship His holy name. I sing like never before. Oh, my soul, I'll worship Your holy name. The sun comes up, it's a new day dawning. It's time to sing Your song again. Whatever may pass and whatever lies before me, let me be singing when the evening comes. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship His holy name and sing like never before. Oh, my soul, I'll worship Your holy name. You're rich in love and You're slow to anger. Your name is great and Your heart is kind. For all Your goodness I will keep on singing. 10,000 reasons for my heart to find. Oh, bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship His holy name. I sing like never before. Oh, my soul, I'll worship Your holy name. And on that day when my strength is failing, the end draws near and my time has come, still my soul will sing Your praise unending. 10,000 years and then forevermore. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul, worship his holy name, and sing like never before. Oh, my soul, I'll worship your holy name. So bless the Lord, oh, my soul, oh, my soul, I'll worship his holy name, and sing like never before. Oh, my soul, I'll worship your holy name. I'll worship your holy name. Yes, I'll worship your holy name. Yeah. So a couple years ago, I was thinking about this next song we're going to sing. There's a line at the end of each chorus that says, "You're too good to let me go." And I was thinking about several years ago. Was a very challenging season of my life, and just suffice it to say, it was very difficult. But towards the end of coming out of that season, there was just some incredible blessings that came out of that. My wife and I, we met a friend for coffee. Her name is Marianne, and she's just an incredible woman of faith and hope and just enthusiasm for life and for God. And we were just sharing just some of the blessings and just the journey, and she was just in awe. And she said, in talking about God, she said, he just can't help himself. And that has stuck with me since then. Just the nature of God. He is too good to let us go. He is too good that he just can't help himself but to just shower us with blessings. Even through incredible pain and hardship and pandemics and unrest and injustice, there are blessings showered down because God loves us so much and he can't help himself. So as we sing this song, highs and lows, we are certainly in seasons globally and locally and personally of highs and lows, but just know of his love, his grace for you. When it feels like the dark lingers longer than the night, when the shadows feel like giants, are you chasing me down? Tell me, where could I run from your light? Where could I hide? And within your precious thoughts, there's no hiding from your love. Highs and lows, Lord, you're with me either way it goes. Should I rise or should I fall? Even so, Lord, your mercy is an even flow. You're too good to let me go. Should I dance on the heights or make my bed among the depths? Your mercy waits at every end, like you planned it from the start. Should the dawn come with wings or find me far side of the sea, there your hand still fastens me ever closer to your heart. Oh, highs and lows, Lord, you're with me the way it goes. Should I rise or should I fall? Even so, Lord, your mercy is an even flow. Should I rise or should I fall? You're faithful through it all. You're too good to let me go. Surround me the way it goes. Should I rise or should I fall? Lord, you're with me through it all. Oh, highs and lows, in the rhythms of your grace I know. Should I rise or should I fall? Faithful through it all. You're too good to let me go.
Just about walked up here without my mic. We're here. It is good to be with you this morning. I have had the privilege over the past couple of weeks to talk to people from across the country about Story Church, about this new campus that we are launching, and about who we are as Story Church and what we are hoping to do in another place in the Triangle. And this week I was talking to a dear friend, actually, and basically just explaining how we at Story Church want to be the heart of God in the community by showing up. That when there are highs and there are lows, that we will show up and that we will be there for people. And just like what Kyle talked about, in the same way that we hope to do that for other people, God does that for us. Day in and day out, no matter if we are coming hands and knees crawling to God, if we are praising God, God is showing up for us. And God will continue to show up day in and day out. And there is a scripture that I love in the Psalms, and I didn't have enough time to find it before I jumped up here. And it's, I remain confident of this, that I will see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. We have been through a very long winter, and we are going to continue, even in the midst of that, to see the goodness of the Lord here, because God is going to show up today and tomorrow and the next day in your life, in my life, in the life of our church, in our community, and in our world. God is going to show up. And so we're going to take a couple minutes now, and we're going to pray. We're going to pray, and we're going to show up, and we're going to come together and come to God on behalf of people. So will you pray with me? God, I thank you for who you are in each of our lives. I thank you for the gift of life that you have given us and for the community that you have created here at Story Church, for the little kids that come in with joy, and for those of us that barely made it through the doors today. I thank you that this community is here, that we can be your love to one another today. And I just thank you for the ways that you are faithful to every single one of us. Today I pray for Mary. I pray for the work that she is doing in our community, the way that she is trying to bring neighbors together. I pray that you will be with her, that all of those logistics and plans can come together, that it can be a time of connection, that it can be a safe place, that people can see that they belong. And I just thank you that Mary is stepping out in faith and doing this and providing this. And I pray for those that might not even be in this building today, but that are watching online, maybe for the first time, maybe for the 65th time. I pray that they will feel your love, that they will know that they belong, and that you are with them, regardless of what is going on in their lives today. I pray all of this in your faithful name. Amen. Well, we are going to take a couple minutes now and meet and greet one another. So I encourage you, meet someone you don't know, greet someone you do know, and we will be back here in just a moment. Thanks. Hi. Should I be talking right now? Yes? We're going to go for it. Welcome back from meet and greet. The lights all changed, and I'm like, what's going on back there? I hope you got to meet or greet somebody. It's been fun to see people that we haven't seen in a long time, in addition to brand new people. So, welcome. A couple announcements for you today. This is the Connect card. We would love you to fill this out if you are new or if there is something that you would like to connect with us about. This is in the seat back pocket in front of you, and you can take it out to our guest table in the lobby afterwards. There will be someone there to greet you and take this from you and also answer any other questions or concerns or interests that you have. If you're joining us online, we have an online version of this at storychurch.org/connect. You can do the exact same things there, and we will be sure to connect with you throughout this week. And also, again, we have those hosts online. So if you do have an immediate question, need anything, that's exactly what they are there for. Another way to connect here at Story Church is through our connection groups, and those have kicked off. And so I hope that if you have been like, oh, I keep meaning to do that, now is the time, because they have started. And so they're going to be going on this summer. We've got a variety, whether it's Zoom, in person, outdoors, there's fun different things. So please, if you have been meaning to do it, or if you're looking for a next step to take, Connection Group is a great option. You can see all of that online. And then finally, there always seems to be something going on here at Story Church. And so if you are not getting the weekly, that is the easiest way. It comes to your inbox every Friday morning. Make sure you are getting it. Make sure you are signed up and are in the know about everything going on here at Story Church. We are excited today. Pastor Jeremy and his family is back. They are over cross-country jet lag, and we are kicking off a new series called Seasons. And I'm excited. This is going to be a 5-week series, and we are going to talk about the different seasons. So please welcome Jeremy.
Good morning, everybody. Man, it is really great to be back. I have not been away on a Sunday for a very long time. So to be gone the last few weeks felt a little weird, but really glad to be back with you today. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching online. I'm excited. We went back to California on vacation, my family and I, which is where I'm from originally, and about half of my family is from. The other half was sort of grew up or born here, and so it was fun. It was fun to feel what 108 feels like again. Sort of like, sitting under a hairdryer, just like straight in your face the whole time or something. So that was great. But I got to take my kids, which was really fun, on sort of a tour of where I grew up. And, I took them to the house I grew up in, and I took them to the places that I played. I went and showed them, literally my bike tracks and my name in the cement. It was wet that I had ridden my bike through as like a 12-year-old, and then wrote my name. And so I was able to show them all that. It was really fun just to kind of, go back there. And what I found going back to that space is like memories came back, not just like of events, but even like the things that I was feeling during that time of my life, the things that I was worried about, or the things that I was excited about, or the beliefs I had, or the hopes I had, like all of that came back, because like each house that we had lived in, there was the house where Kimmy and I first lived after college, where we brought Hannah home from the hospital, and she, we had our baby there, and it was like, oh my gosh, that house, it had so many feelings and thoughts associated with it. And then there was the other house that God provided sort of miraculously for our growing family, and we were able to go over there, and I just remembered, oh yeah, I remember going into that house and how it felt, and all the things that happened to lead up to that. And so, each of these moments were sort of markers. And what I've realized, and to tie it in with what we're going to talk about in these next several weeks, is that there are seasons in our life, seasons of time where you lived in that place, or where you worked at that space, or where you were in that relationship, or whatever it is. And there are hopes and dreams and beliefs and thoughts and feelings and all kinds of things associated with that season of your life. And you look back on that season, some of it fondly, some of it you're like, man, I'm so glad that's a past season and not a current season. But we go through these things together, and we experience these different kinds of things. And it's just an interesting reality about life. It's flowing and moving and changing, and very much like the seasons. You have been through seasons of plenty. You've been through seasons where you really struggled. There's been seasons in your life, I'm sure, of love and butterflies, and then there's been seasons of heartbreak and pain. There's been seasons of joy and seasons of disappointment. And here's the thing is like you're sitting in a room with people or you're watching online with others who are going through a season that's not the same season that you're going through. Whereas like I know outside it's hot for all of us, but the truth is we're all going through different seasons right now. We're experiencing life in very different ways. I know that that's true especially when you're like, you just get married or you just have your first kid. And some of your friends are still single or they're still, married without kids. And they're like, hey, want to go to the movie at 10 o'clock tonight? And you're like, are you crazy? You're like, you have no idea what life is like now, right? Like they're in a completely different season than you're in. You're in a totally different space than they might be in, right? Or you're watching people go on vacations and you're like, I wish I was in vacation season. I'm in hold down 3 jobs at a time season, And you're just thinking about trying to make ends meet. And so we go through these different things. And like I said, people all around you are in a different season than you might be in. I mean, even just looking at Facebook this last week and just in a feed, like you're just looking and you might see news of a birth right next to news of somebody who lost someone close to them, right? And totally different seasons, but right there in the middle of this thing together. We're all going through these different seasons. There's an Old Testament book called Ecclesiastes, and it's a book of, it's sort of classified as wisdom literature, it's sort of philosophy, it's sort of, emo. It's kind of all kinds of things together. The writer is probably sitting in a dark room with a candle and just sort of like, I don't know, just reminiscing on life and it's all of its pain. And it's really interesting to read, but it's not like going to necessarily lift you up and make you feel awesome like the Psalms might. It's more of like a, hey, life is hard kind of a message. And but it's really powerful and it's really true. And I want to read to you from Ecclesiastes chapter 3. This is what the writer says. A lot of people think the writer of Ecclesiastes is Solomon, who is known as the wisest man who ever lived. It could be, I don't know, but this is what the writer says in Ecclesiastes chapter 3. It says, there is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to uproot. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to tear down and a time to build. There's a time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to scatter stones and a time to gather them. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. I think we called that season COVID, right? A time to search and a time to give up. A time to keep and a time to throw away. A time to tear and a time to mend. A time to be silent and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. It's a time for war and a time for peace. The author says, listen, there is a time, there is a season for everything. That there are times when it's like, hey, let's build that new thing. And there's other times when it's like, hey, it's time to tear this thing down, right? Time changes and seasons change. And there's the time when you bought the house and it was like so exciting. And then there's the season when you sell the house. And you say, you know what? It's time to do something different. There's a time when you started that new job, and then there's the time when you're like, I can't wait to leave this job and to get a different one, right? Or there's the time that you go, you know what? My kids are angels. And then there's that witching hour time. And you're like, these children are of the devil, right? Like it happens. There's a time for everything. There's a season for everything. And we go through them all the time. Life is seasonal. And so I want to talk to you this morning about sort of 4 truths about that, about this sort of seasonal reality to life. And I want to do this sort of as a backdrop this morning. Over the next 4 weeks after today, we're going to tackle each of our kind of normal seasons, spring, summer, fall, winter, and we're going to talk about some of the spiritual dynamics that are sort of represented in that. And I want to talk through that over the next several weeks. But I want to give you this morning a backdrop that I think will guide us throughout this series. And so 4 truths, if you're a note taker, these are 4 things you can write down. If you're not a note taker, totally fine. Some of you need to write something down, so I'm giving you something to write down this morning. And so the first one is this, is that no season, no matter what it is, no season is forever, right? No season is forever. Now that's bad news when things are going awesome, because you want that to go forever. But let's be honest, like there's a season for that and it's awesome, but it's not going to last forever in that exact way. But it's really good news when you consider that the season of pain that you're going through right now, the season of struggle, the season of loneliness, the season of isolation or suffering, that season will eventually give way to something else. That season will not last forever. And that's so important for us to remember, to keep sort of the long-term view in mind, that I am in a season. And yes, it stinks, and yes, it's hard, and yes, it's difficult, but there is a long-term game going on here, right? And I'm in the first quarter, I'm in the second quarter of this game, and it's not going well at the moment, but there is plenty more. There's a whole second half to go. And what happens sometimes is that people give up in a down season, or they start to just, make terrible decisions in that down season because it feels like it's going to last forever, but it's not. It's just a season. And just like you were in a different season before and now you're in this season, you will be in another season in the future. And so hang on, just keep going. Keep the long-term view in mind. I've seen people mistake a season for a sentence, right? Like, this is my sentence now. This is my life. I have to deal with this forever. And it's like, no. Listen, it's a scratch on your car. It's okay, right? Like, it's not the end of the world. Or it's something more significant. Yeah, it's a sickness, but there is more days ahead. There are better days ahead. This is a season, not a sentence. Sometimes when you're single, it can feel like it's always going to be this way, right? And if you don't want to be single, it's worse. It's like this feels like it's never going to be different than this. But I promise you, it's a season. It's a season. Maybe you're in a situation where financially you're struggling. You're barely hanging on. You're behind. Listen, it's a season, right? Keep going. Keep doing what you know you should do. Keep working. Keep being faithful. It's a season. It will pass. If you're in pain, if you're in sickness, if you're experiencing anxiety, if you're experiencing these different things, understand there are seasons. These things come in waves, and it might be bad now, but listen, tomorrow can be better. Keep going, right? If you're sitting in a job right now that you hate, it's okay. It's a season. We all have those jobs. If you are driving that car that's smoking and sputtering and all that, it's okay. It's going to be better, right? There will be more cars. You will get through this. It's a season. It won't always be like this. And I think one of the mistakes that you and I make is just, again, head down believing this is all there is, and this is how it will be forever. And listen, we serve a God of resurrection. We serve a God of new life, and we have to understand that, yes, we go through stuff, but it's not the final word, and there is always a tomorrow. There's always something else that can change. So keep in mind, the season that you're in, it's not forever. But it is important to remember the second truth, that every season, even the painful ones, even the difficult ones, have value. There is something in the season that you're in that is worth mining out. That it's worth going into the season with eyes wide open and going, okay, this is difficult, it's painful, it's uncomfortable, it's all kinds of things. But what is in this season for me? What's in here that I need to get, that I need to mine out, that I need to understand so that I can move on, that I can be better in the next season? There's a verse, again, the same author, just a couple verses later, Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 11. It says, he has made everything beautiful in its time, right? He has made everything beautiful in its time. So even the difficult season, even the pain, God has made everything beautiful in its time, right? And when we understand that life is seasonal, when we understand that things come and go, when we understand that this won't last forever, then we can go into even the dark seasons, even the painful seasons, and we can look for something beautiful in it. We can go, what in this is for me? What is the thing that God has for me in this? And here's why this is so important, because if we don't embrace the season that we're in and really accept it and just go, okay, this is a season, what can I get from this? If we don't do that, then there's a high likelihood that the pain in the season can bleed over into the next, that the difficult thing can be prolonged, or that we might, even worse, be in danger of repeating this season in the future. If we don't get the thing out of it that we need to get out of it now, if we don't learn the difficult lesson, if we don't grow from this season that we're in, then we could be right back where we were at the beginning of the season the next time around. I remember one time when we had first moved out here, and we came from California. We moved out here, and fall hit, and I was like, "What is this season with all of these things, that hit the ground?" And it was incredible, and so that we just unbelievable. I remember at one house, we bagged over 100 bags of leaves in our yard. And I didn't know back then about all the different ways to get rid of leaves. I literally scooped them all into bags and took them, and different things. But what I did first was I just piled them. And I put them all in piles, and I had several piles throughout my yard. And it was so much work in one day to pile those leaves that I was like, I'm done. And I just left them in piles in the yard. Well, there's nothing less motivating than piles in the yard. So I left them. I just left them for like weeks and weeks, and then finally came back to them. And when I removed the piles, now I had giant holes in my grass, right? Like in my yard, like just dark black spots that had been nasty, and there were things living in it and all kinds of stuff. And what I realized is that season called fall was meant to be dealt with in the fall, but it carried over to like the spring. Like it was still there. I was still dealing with it in a season of growth and new life, and there's new life blooming except for this hole right here and this hole over here. Because I didn't deal with it in the season that I should have dealt with it, it carried over into a season when there should have been growth and beauty and all kinds of things, right? And you can see how that happens in our spiritual lives. You can see how that happens in our relationships when we don't deal with something in a season when it's there, and we just try and ignore it, and we just try and push it down, we just try and pretend it's not there. It inevitably pops up in a time when we don't want it to be there. And that can carry over into that season. And so I just want to encourage you, there's value in the season you're in if you'll mine it for the value. If you'll say, okay, this is really painful and really difficult. This conflict stinks. This whatever, but I'm going to work through it. I'm going to deal with it so that it doesn't come back up at the inopportune time down the line. I want to encourage you to really grasp the season that you're in and to look for the value in it. Here's a third truth, is that every season is unique. And yeah, they might feel familiar, but they're different. And the changing season you're going through maybe right now is different than the changing season you went through maybe a couple of years ago. Every time it's a little bit unique. And the one that you're experiencing is different than the one that the person next to you might be going through. We're all going through seasons, but they're different, and they're not at the same time. Even COVID, right? We all experienced something together. This pandemic that was global and is ongoing, frankly. Let's not forget that. And that this is a thing that we're all experiencing, right? But for some of us, this was a time of dark isolation and pain. And I have friends who experienced anxiety and depression for the first time, friends who really went to dark places, people whose health declined, people who lost people. It was a painful, difficult time. And for you, even just the isolation, let alone the sickness, might have been really, really difficult, especially if you're extroverted or if you're really, connected and going to be with people and see people as something that gives you life. Man, this was hard. It was a difficult season. But let's not forget, like I have a friend who sort of apologetically, every time we talk about COVID, he's like, man, I feel bad. It's like the best year of my life. For him, he was like, this was incredible. He met his wife and they got married. He quit his regular job and started a business, and it's absolutely exploding. He's making more money than he's ever made in his life, and he's working less than he's ever worked. And I mean, it's just like everything about his life has gone up and to the right. And it's just like, he's like, I'm sorry, it's awesome. Like I wish COVID was like a decade long. He's like just thinking about all these different things. And I'm like, you're crazy and I don't like you and you're not my friend anymore, because for me, it was difficult. I really found this to be a dark, difficult, painful season. And I don't know where you stand in that, but it's like we might all be going through something together, and yet we're experiencing it differently, right? It doesn't take much to even think back to like the most recent political season or some of the social injustices. And we might be going through, and you might be watching something on the news and it's not happening in your neighborhood. And so you're like, wow, that stinks, But somebody somewhere is going, more than stinks. It's life-threatening. It's something that is absolutely brutal for me, for my family, for my community, right? And it's something that we're all sort of in some way seeing and experiencing, but we're feeling that on completely different levels. The seasons are real. We experience them. We're going through them. Each one is unique. And I want to encourage you to remember that don't compare your season to theirs, right? That's so dangerous, is just to go, what? I don't understand. Everything's awesome right now, but someone else is really struggling. Don't forget that fact. And then vice versa. Don't go, you know what? I'm in winter and they're in spring, right? This isn't fair. Don't compare your season to theirs. I think what can happen so often, especially on social media, is that we're seeing everybody else do awesome things. We're seeing their highlight reel, and you and I know that life is not all highlight reels, and yet we're looking at theirs, we're seeing what they're doing, and we're at home, we're sick, we're struggling, we're broke, we're whatever, right? And we can compare our season to theirs, and we can start to feel things that we weren't intended to feel, right? Whether it's envy or disdain or whatever that might be. And I just want to encourage you, don't compare seasons. Just understand each one's unique. This is where I'm at right now. This is where they're at. It's okay. We're in different places. What can I learn? What can I experience? This season won't last forever. So how do I grow through this so that I'm ready for the next one? And then the fourth idea I just want to remind you this morning is that seasons change, but God doesn't. And as much as you and I will go through changes and we'll go through highs and lows like we sang a little bit ago, that God is the same. In fact, in Hebrews chapter 13, we're reminded, it says Jesus Christ is the same yesterday and today and forever, right? That there is a continuity, there is a sameness to the presence of God, to the availability of God, to the goodness, to the kindness, to the mercy and the love of God, that doesn't change. Now, I will grant you, and I will be the first to admit, you and I will experience God differently in different seasons. That we might feel really close to Him in one season and really distant in another. We might feel all kinds of clarity about God in one season and all kinds of confusion about God in another. But I just want to assure you, God's the same. God isn't changing. That our proximity to God, that our feelings toward God might ebb and flow. That's certainly going to happen in the life of anybody. But I want to encourage you that God's faithfulness, God's goodness, the scriptures are full of this language that God is always there. As Kyle shared with us this morning, He's too good to let you go. That it's just, He can't help it, right? That idea that God's goodness, His presence, His mercy and love, they don't change. They're always there. They're always available for us. So let me ask you this morning, as we kind of start to dive into this season for the next several weeks, think about where you're at for a minute. What season are you in? If I could kind of just give you maybe a guide on how to think about these seasons or how we're going to think about them in this time. If I were going to say anything about spring, to me, that's kind of a season of growth. It's a season where things are new. It's a season where there's lots of life. There's lots of, like I said, sort of momentum, and things feel really good in the spring. Summer, for me, and kind of how I think about it, summer can get long, right? Like the days can feel long, the heat can get old, right? It's sort of a grind. I'm a baseball fan. They talk about the dog days of summer and just the long kind of stretch that's in the middle of the baseball season. It's a grind. It's just something like we all, if you have children, by like, I don't know, mid-June, late June, you're like, when's school start again? When is that happening, right? Like, because it's just a grind. You're just thinking about, man, I'm kind of ready for the cooler weather. I'm ready for the change. And you just start, like it's kind of wears on you. Sometimes you're in that season where you just feel like you're just grinding through your days. Fall to me is just overall just a season of change. It's a season where things change. And you can kind of define that how you want, but in general, that's sort of how we think about fall. And then winter is really a season of sometimes darkness, sometimes pain, sometimes difficulty. It's a season where we don't see a lot of growth. It's a season maybe of survival. It's a season of just sort of kind of getting through. You're longing for the spring, right? You're longing for what's next. That can be sort of that winter season. So where do you find yourself? And here's the other difficult thing. I'm just going to keep compounding on this, is that your career could be in one season and your family could be in another, right? That your spiritual life could be in this season, but your career could be in a different one. These things are not always going in the same pace in the same place. And so really trying to sit down and go, okay, how are my relationships? What season am I in the relationships that matter most to me? What season am I in my financial life? What season am I in my spiritual life? And just sort of doing a little bit of inventory. I would think that'd be real valuable to you as we start to talk about this over the next several weeks. Just to sort of identify where you're at so that you can start to think about the things we talked about. This season won't last, right? That this season is important. It's valuable. There's something in it for me. And this season is going to change, but it's unique from what other people are experiencing. And I just want to encourage you, find out, where are you? Think through that. And then ask yourself, why might this current season be important in my life for the bigger story that's happening? For the kind of long-term view of my life, how is this season going to right itself? What is this season about? My hope for us as a church, as a community, is that we would learn to navigate the seasons that we're in with just expertise, that we could walk into each new season and go, okay, here it is. This season's changed, something's different. It's a new season, to be aware of that and to go, okay, I'm confident God is still in this season, and I'm confident that God hasn't abandoned me. So what in this season is for me? What do I need to learn? How can I grow? How can I develop and get to know myself or get to know Him longer? And I have to confess to you, I have not always done this well. And so I'm saying this as someone who has failed in this regard, but really thinking about this idea that I don't want to spend 90% of my days wishing I was in some other season. I want to make sure that the season I'm in is one that I can embrace and go, okay, it's different than the last one, but there's good here. There's value here. There's beauty here. What can I get from it? What can I learn from it? As a culture, we went through we're continuing to go through difficult seasons. Like I said, COVID, issues of justice, things that were uncomfortable conversations, uncomfortable truths that were brought to the surface. We saw video of things that were like, wow, how is this real? And it came to the forefront of our minds, and we can choose to ignore those things, or we can allow those seasons to change us for the better and move us forward to something else. How do we continue to embrace where we're at so that we can move forward in deeper truths and in deeper ways? So that's my hope for us. And we're going to jump in next week with spring. We're going to talk about, what's great about that, and it's real easy to do that. But as these seasons go through, sometimes you and I know that they're not always great. And we're going to have to learn through those as well. So come next week, log back on. I'm excited to continue to share this with you. Let me pray for you right now before we close out. God, thank you for your love for us. Thank you that the truth is, God, is that you are always here. You're always with us. You're always available. God, whatever season we find ourselves in today, Lord, I pray that we would see the good in it. We would see the value in it. We would lean into that. But God, also that we would be so aware of your presence in the midst of it. Whether we're praising you for all the great that's happening, God, or we're pleading with you, God, for a deep, difficult season. I just pray that you'll be close. I pray that we'll be aware of you and that we will continue to lean in to you. God, give us greater awareness throughout this time together and change us, Lord, as we continue to move forward. We pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. Well, thanks again for being here. Before you head out today, I want to remind you a couple things. If you're kind of new, we'd love for you to fill out that card or go online to the website, storychurch.org/connect. We would love to hear from you and get to communicate with you a little bit. Also want to let you know, if you're giving, you can give online through our website, storychurch.org/give. Or if you're giving in person, there's a box in the back of the room. You can do that as well. And then finally, Story Kids, we're making a slight change for those of you who are watching online. We have been having our Story Kids videos just sort of playing at the end of service. Today, we're making a little switch on that. They are all available online through the website, but they will not automatically play now. So if you want them, go to storychurch.org/kids, and you can pull them right up and watch them in the same way. They're all available to you on demand, but they will not automatically play this morning. So that said, guys, thanks for being here. I hope you have an incredible week. We will see you next time right back here. See ya.